selfish reason is I want to learn from you guys. Okay. All right. So we've rehearsed this a little bit, but I'm sure we're going to have a little glitch. Can you guys see my screen? I'm assuming you can see my screen. Should I go ahead? So a lot of people ask me, what is an IVF doctor really doing as an angel investor? And a lot of them find it very confusing. And there really aren't that many doctors who, and don't forget, I was going to tell Krishna, why did you say IVF doctor turned angel investor? I'm still an IVF doctor. I continue seeing patients on a regular basis. So it's more like an IVF doctor who was also an angel investor. And I don't think I'll stop being an IVF doctor. I always tell people it's the best job in the world. I get women pregnant and their husbands pay me to do that for them. But kidding apart, so I keep on trying to play around, and I think a sense of humor just makes life a little bit easier. So that's my new, what do you call this, a DP or something else? Or that's just my photo of what I think of myself as being. So why did this start? And it's been a fairly long journey. It's not something, no one teaches you angel investing or entrepreneurship when you're in medical college. And in fact, that's one of the things we want to change, which is why Krishna is actually driving Mice Labs, and I'll come back to that at some point. But I've been on the board of a healthcare startup, which is doing extremely well. It's one of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's companies since the last 10 years. Learned a lot in that process. This company started off with 5 people. It's got 5,000 people now, making tons of money. It helps US physicians take better care of their patients. So it's been quite a journey. And obviously, I didn't know anything about what you needed to do when you are on a board, and what a P&L is, and what EBITDA is, and what churn is, and what company culture is, and lots of things. So I learned on the job. And the best thing is I didn't have to pay for that. So that was exciting. And, when you don't know stuff, you go back after the board meeting. You don't open your mouth during the meeting. You don't want to look like a fool. And everyone else obviously is much smarter than you are. But you go back, you read a little bit. So the next time you're a little smarter, and then a little smarter. And then my daughter, she did her MBA from Stanford. And, as it is, children don't respect parents anymore, right? And it's like, yeah, you're an old fuddy-duddy doctor. What do you understand? I'm an MBA. I'm from Stanford, Falana, Dikana. So I said, okay, I'll show you. You're the MBA. I understand that. But at least I understand what you're saying. So you're not going to be able to assume I know nothing. So that was worthwhile. With all these things, it's very helpful to get support from other people. So I joined Mumbai Angels Network. Extremely helpful, because you then have a group of people, what I call a mastermind group, who teach you so much, which otherwise you don't know. So that was helpful. So I think other people, but books first. Always books first, simply because you can read a book when you like, it's cheap, it's easily available. You can ask a book 50 different questions without feeling stupid. And then once you read the book, you can then go back to your network and ask them more specific questions. So, and now, of course, because I enjoy doing this, I've been doing it for a long time. I drew it through a family office called Solidarity. So we have a full-time equity analyst whose job is to scrub the deal. So he does all the hard work. So I always tell people I'm fortunate. In the clinic, my wife does all the hard work. And for the startup investing, my analyst does all the hard work. तो मुझे कुछ करना नहीं पड़ता है, तो मैं बैठ के ऐसे lecture देता हूँ और ज्ञान बताता हूँ. Right. So how did I learn? Like I said before, and it was not very easy a few years ago. It was still a very new term. Who'd heard about the startup ecosystem? And a lot of the stuff was what was happening in the USA. Most of it really wasn't even applicable. Today, thanks to the internet, much easier. And one of the things I like doing is sharing my experiences. And you do it through books, you do it through LinkedIn. And the great thing about LinkedIn, and people don't realize this, is I actually end up learning more from the comments on my posts than the posts. Sometimes the posts are deliberately provocative. And I've noticed the shorter the post, the better, because then people are much more willing to tell you what they really think. So you get to learn a lot, and then you've got to think about, how do I answer this? And it gives you new ideas for what you're going to say next. So good fun. And quite frankly, I think, and I'm coming to this, it's what I call the T-shaped model of life. As a doctor, you take a lot of pride in being a specialist, in being, hey, I'm the world's best specialist. So that's called deep specialization. I do only IVF. I'm extremely good at that. We provide world-class care, and we'll continue doing it. But I think at some point you kind of say, okay, what else is going on in the world? You want to expand your horizons, because the reality is it's very unlikely that there will be an IVF patient who comes to me with a problem I haven't seen before. And then you want to apply what you've learned to other fields. And that's where the horizontal limb of the tree comes in. And that's why we run Malpani Ventures. That's our website. And like I said before, we try to be accessible. We try to answer questions. We understand that the Indian startup ecosystem is very immature. And the best way to grow it is to share as much information as possible. What do we do? I honestly think people in the Indian most startup ecosystems have their priorities all wrong. Money is not the most important thing. Investors aren't the most important thing. It's customers are the most important thing. And you're not going to have customers unless you have entrepreneurs. So we think we need to respect our entrepreneurs. And that's, again, one of the reasons why I post. Because I need to walk my talk. If I say something on a LinkedIn post and end up doing something else, some entrepreneur said, "Arey, badi baate karta hai, karta to kuch hai nahi." So you always have this opportunity for being called out. So I'm forced to walk my talk, which keeps me honest. And I think that's all for the best. We believe in frugal innovation. I have a restricted amount of money. It's hard-earned money. I need to make sure that I spend it sensibly. I can't compete with all these big boys. So our focus is, there's lots of stuff we will not do, but we want to do the few things we do very, very well. We understand an entrepreneur's time is precious, so we'll say no quickly. Either people are too early, too late, want too much money, whatever. So if it doesn't work, it's much better to say, hey, we're not the right investors for you, find someone else. And that's why we have a well-defined investment thesis. People should know exactly what I'm looking for. And because it's all in black and white, they can read it and reread it. And I'm not saying they won't have questions, but it's much easier for me to answer their questions after they've read the stuff. And I try to be open and transparent. The more I share. So if someone asks me a question, I kind of think, maybe other people have that same question. Maybe I need to share the answer on the website. And that's what I try to do. And this, of course, is what everyone thinks an angel investor's dream is. Yeah, find me the next Uber, find me the next Byju's or whatever else. Boss paise banenge. Forget it. Not going to happen. And I'm not going to fool myself. Angel investing is not going to make. I'm sure I'll make other people rich. It's not going to make me rich. And the reality is it's an illiquid asset class. I mean, once you put the money in, nothing going to happen for 5 years, 10 years, whatever. People get very excited when, "Arey, 3 saal mein aisa hua, isne exit kar liya." The very fact people write stories about that means it's an outlier. It's unusual. It doesn't happen. And of course, no one writes about the 99 startups where nothing happens, which remain zombie companies where the investor's money is locked up and he can't get an exit. And 80% of startups fail. And people say, and most of these are people who've never failed in their life. Forget about failing. They've always come first. And they can't understand, and in India, it's still a little bit of a stigma. But that's the nature of the beast. It's like not everyone who's going to take part in the Olympics is going to get a gold medal, right? But just because you don't get the Olympic gold medal doesn't make you a failure. The fact that you participated in the Olympics is actually what counts, rather than you didn't get the gold medal. But again, it's all a question of attitude. You can choose to be miserable. You can choose to say, "Arey yaar, mere paas sirf 1 billion hai, uske paas 2 billion hai." And you continue being miserable all your life. Or you decide, yes, hey, not bad. I've made quite a bit. And I need to now think about what I want to do with it. I always tell angel investors, only invest money which you can afford to lose without losing any sleep over. Because the reality is you will. And it's not because entrepreneurs are careless or don't want to give you your money back. And they're not crooked. But, fragile systems will collapse no matter what you do. And this is the other thing. I must point this out. This is not the money I earn in my IVF clinic, which I invest in angel investing. A doctor's money is very hard earned. It's all blood, sweat, and tears. In one sense, doctors are entrepreneurs. I would never put that money on angel investing. So where does that money come from? So I don't have a rich grandfather either, or a rich father-in-law. I wish I did. But that's basically money which I invested years ago in the public markets. This is in the listed space. And the Indian equity markets have been extremely kind, which means this becomes passive income. Now, it's not easy come, easy go, but at least you kind of feel, well, I earn this income from the public markets. So let me put it in the private markets. And if things work out well, I'll make money. And if things don't work out well, in one sense, it wasn't money which I actually earned by the sweat of my brow. So I won't feel too bad if I lose it as well. Again, I have realistic expectations. And I think part of the problem today is there's so much hype that every Tom, Dick, and Harry wants to become an angel investor. And I think that's fine. The more the money, the better. But because they have unrealistic expectations, they make the entrepreneur's life hell. Poor guy. अरे यार 2 साल हो गए अभी तक नहीं exit मिला. What the hell are you doing? Why are you still losing money? Where are all your customers? I don't care about coronavirus. Show me the money. And that becomes a problem. And that's why I always tell entrepreneurs, do your due diligence. Just like we do our due diligence on entrepreneurs, I think entrepreneurs need to do their due diligence on investors as well. And I think this is important because if you don't know what makes an angel investor tick, you're not going to be able to pitch to him. And again, I think let's go through it one by one. For their own benefit, and obviously everyone does everything for selfish reasons, no matter what they may say. So yes, to make money may not happen. To have fun, definitely. And to avoid boredom, yes. But I think it's something interesting. You know, at some point, these are young entrepreneurs. They're optimistic. They look up to you. Maybe they only look up to you because they want your money. So at least they pretend to look up to you. Chalo aur kuch nahi to simulate to karte hai respect. But I think it's still something which I think makes you a lot more optimistic about the world. It makes you younger because otherwise, you know, when you become old, you're always whining and whinging and complaining and bitching. आजकल के बच्चे हैं, कुछ करते नहीं है. हम इतना hard work करते थे. These people just don't care anymore. They don't respect elders. The world is going to the dogs. All these politicians and bureaucrats, and they've messed everything up. 50 different things. So again, so the first thing is you do it for your own benefit. I also think we do it because we care about entrepreneurs. You know, I know how hard it was starting up, and if I can make someone else's life easier, I'm hoping that they will pay it forward and make someone else's life easier when they get that chance to do it. And for the benefit of the world, obviously, these are called legacy issues. You know, after you cross a particular age, what are you going to do with all that money? I don't drive a Rolls Royce, but you need to invest it. And I think this is a great way of being able to invest, not just money, but your experience, your wisdom. You learn so much more. So honestly, it becomes a positive virtuous cycle. Because irrespective of whether you actually get an exit, irrespective of whether you actually make money on all of these enterprises, and most of the time you don't, if nothing else, you become smarter about the ecosystem, how to identify good entrepreneurs, and you kind of think, Arey yaar, I've spent so much money on doing this. I better do something to make sure that I do a better job the next time I invest. So pros and cons. Let me start off with the cons first, because that's not something which Inc. 42 or Your Story or Times of India is going to talk about. So the money is pretty much stuck. It usually takes years, and especially in India, you know, if anything happens before 10 years, I count my blessings. Most of it's going to be lost. That's fine. And honestly, at some point, and this has happened to me often enough, entrepreneurs are very sweet to you when they want your money, and after they've taken off the money, what happened? Maybe you share some wisdom with an entrepreneur. You see him actually implement what you've said. That really gives you such a kick, because at some point, you know, I've got lots of ideas, but I'm not going to implement any of this stuff. I'm too old, been there, done that. But if someone else takes the ball and runs with it, fantastic. Like I said, you have this personal connection. And the great thing is everything I read actually now has a practical application. So it's not just intellectual masturbation that you read about marketing and advertising in Google AdWords and posting on LinkedIn, because there's lots of stuff you learn the hard way, which I can then share with my entrepreneurs. And at some point, don't forget, I continue being an entrepreneur. For example, we started a new website. It's called amplifyyourvoice.in. For exactly the reason that I think people have something to say, but they don't know how to say it or where to say it. And LinkedIn is great, but it's LinkedIn's platform, and what you say gets buried in the feed. So we've actually set up a website, got people, not wasting money on ads. We'll see how that goes. And like I said, it's educational. I think this is important because I always tell people all the fun stuff happens on the cutting edge of your field, especially where it overlaps with another field. So I'm a doctor, and you kind of feel, what can the next generation of doctors do to do a better job than what we did? And lots of stuff, which is one of the things we want. Reading medical textbooks isn't going to help, because by the time you graduate, half the stuff your professors teach you, you find out is wrong. And the trouble is you don't know which half is wrong. So doctors need to create the solutions. Please reach out to Krishna. You know, honestly, Krishna, please switch off your camera, but I think we're blessed to have found, no, Krishna, I'm just teasing you, don't take me seriously. But we honestly think we're blessed to have someone like Krishna. He's young, enthusiastic, willing to learn, willing to teach. And the great thing is because he's not a doctor and he brings an engineering mindset to this, I think it's just great. So guys, please come, visit the lab, visit the website, see what we're doing. Lots of interesting stuff happening. I wish I was younger. If I were younger, I'd mostly want to do Krishna's job. But Krishna, agar main tera job karta, to what would you do? So you should be grateful that I'm old and I'm not taking you out of your job. Sorry, kidding apart. But so why JJ Hospital? Because come on, hospitals are where the patients are. Hospitals are where the doctors are. That's where the nurses are. So innovation has to start from the bedside. I see all these techies and they think about, I just learned Python, I've just learned an AI. All these doctors are idiots. Kuch aata nahi hai. Main ye problem solve karunga, wo karunga. Maybe doctors are idiots, but not such idiots. But anyway, so I think it's under one roof. And this is something which anyone from IIT will die for. That, we already have this captive population. And I think the great thing is everyone comes together, and it's not just doctors and techies or just patients, it's caregivers, family members. They're really bright. They care about their patients. They want to help not just their patients, but other patients as well. And I'll tell you one thing, we're so blessed to be in JJ Hospital. The dean is so supportive. The staff is keen and enthusiastic, but much more important, the students bring so much energy. There's so much fresh blood. So these are bright kids, they could easily have gone into IIT, but they decided to get into medicine, and now they actually get a chance to do something with their hands. So I'm extremely optimistic about the future. Like I said, innovation starts from the bedside, and the great thing is you have senior doctors who don't understand anything about tinkering, but who are happy to tell the young guys what to do. And more importantly, they understand the pain points of patients. Hey, I'd seen this, can we do that? And they want students to come up with solutions. But the good thing about these solutions is they will be practical, feasible, India specific. So here are the 4 Ds. You first have to define the unmet clinical need. Please start from where the problem is. You then go to the lab, design your prototype, and keep on tinkering. And the good thing about a prototype, it doesn't work, big deal. This is called tabletop innovation. Fix it, change it, break it, go again. Then take it to the bedside, see what works, doesn't work, change it, come back again. It's really an iterative process. And after 5 years or whatever else, if things work out, you deploy in the market. And that's exceptionally hard. But the good thing is you don't have to do everything from A to Z yourself. There is some things you bring to the table. The other things you can let other people do for you. So the trick is to partner. And I think this is again common problem. People always think, "Arey yaar, tu ye sab doctors ko engineer banane wale hai kya? Oh, do you have enough of these engineers? Why do we need to bother?" And doctors and engineers have a different mindset. We want to do what's told to us. We repeat what's in our textbooks because you don't really want a cowboy in the operation theater saying, "Arey yaar, I've got a clever new way of taking out the appendix. Instead of taking it out from the base, let me take it out from the tip and let me see what happens." You don't want someone fiddling around with patients. And you know how engineers are. Hey, I'm sure I can do a better job. We can't treat patients that way, and we need to bridge the gap. And I think the best way to bridge the gap is to change the mindset. And doctors need to learn some of these entrepreneurial skills. You need to take risks. You need to be prepared for failure. And I think the good thing about being an entrepreneur is it teaches you so much, not just about the world, because it's a big world out there. And you have to learn things like balance sheets and pitching and employing people and hiring and 50 different things. The good thing about the doctor is in the hospital, though, you're God. Everyone walks around you. Yes, sir. No, sir. All the nurses, all the residents, all the patients. And then it's only when you go out in the world you realize, what a little pipsqueak you are. You're just a little cog in a wheel. And the great thing is you can ask your patients for help. You learn a lot about yourself. And the secret is simple. Just keep on learning. I think that's the one thing kids are wired to do. Babies learn all the time. They learn to walk, they learn to talk, they learn the alphabet, they learn to sing, dance, take TikTok videos, and then we kill all that desire to learn by sending them to school and actually jailing them and forcing them. I don't care what you want to learn. If you're not going to learn arithmetic, you're not going to get your chocolates or whatever else and make their life miserable, and you make your own life miserable. How do you teach a fish how to fly? Anyway, so again, I said the most important things are you've got to do stuff yourself. You lead a team. And I think the best thing to do is first work in a startup yourself. You don't have to make all the mistakes. And I think reading books is extremely helpful. Play to your strengths. What does that mean? You know, you're not going to be able to do everything well yourself, which is fine. But if you can partner with someone who does it better than you do, you know what? There are some things you will love doing. Please only do those. Don't do all the stuff you don't like doing because you'll never do it well. You'll mess up and you won't feel like getting up in the morning. And God, Excel spreadsheets, forget it. And you know, you may find someone who loves Excel spreadsheets and loves doing pivot tables and showing what a whiz kid and creating dashboards. Make him do that, and you do what you enjoy. But the problem is doctors find it hard to become entrepreneurs. We all have egos. School is competitive. College is competitive. Those NEET exams or whatever you call them are competitive. I've got to be in the top, whatever, what percent, 1%, 99.9% or whatever ridiculous number. So you're competing so much you can't cooperate. And the worst thing is, where are you taught to use your hands? I mean, yeah, you do a little bit of dissection, and if you're a surgeon, that's different. But most of the time, you're just, just not good at it. And everyone's so conservative. When you look up to your role models and your professors who are good at cramming stuff, but they've never innovated themselves. And therefore, it's much safer for them to be conventional. And I think a lot of these are lost opportunities. And if we don't create the next generation of entrepreneurial doctors now, when are we ever going to do it? So some tips for entrepreneurs. Hey, you guys are getting bored. Please tell me. I have no idea whether everyone's sleeping or what. I can't see your faces. So what I'm going to do is just keep on talking at some point until Krishna says, okay, Dr. Saab, enough, let's move on. Okay, so again, a lot of confusion with everyone thinks, hey, I have this great idea. Let me go pitch to an angel investor. Ideas are a dime a dozen. And anyone who wants ideas, please reach out to me. I've got 50 ideas. I get 50 ideas before breakfast. 49 are bad. One is good, but the more the ideas, the better the chance that one of them will be good. Please don't worry. Anyone's going to steal your ideas. No one's going to care about them. You're going to find it such a hard time getting someone to be convinced you have a good idea. That's not even funny. But again, we don't fund ideas no matter what you think and, no matter what stories you read. All we care about is how well you can execute. Books. I cannot believe why people don't read. I don't know whether it's Byju's and everyone just wants everything on videos or YouTube videos or what it is, but anyway, I think videos are great. I do Udemy and Coursera and everything else, but it's self-motivated. I have a problem. I identify it, and then I watch a video around it, and then I fast forward most of it because a lot of it is stuff I already know. But that's focused learning, and it's self-motivated, and it's self-directed. And I think people forget that. But I think the way everyone just wants, guidebook hai kya? Arey, just show me kya questions aane wale hai. Syllabus mein nahi hai, to mujhe kya farak padta hai? I don't really care. Okay, I think that's fine. I'll do that. Sure. So here are the books, lots of them again. And this list keeps on changing. And there's just so many great books all the time. And the good thing is lots of Indian authors are coming out with books as well. I wish I had this crystal ball, but I don't. What I know is most of these investments are going to fail, and yet I continue investing. It doesn't make me an idiot and doesn't mean I have too much money and don't have enough sense. It's just that I know that these are calculated risks. And this, of course, is what due diligence is. And this is something which entrepreneurs hate. Why is this guy asking me all these questions? And a lot of our questions appear to be stupid questions, but they're not. There's a reason why. We just want to see, do you get irritated if we ask you a stupid question? Because if you think we're asking you stupid questions, your customers are going to ask you questions which are 100 times stupider. You can't answer them, you're in trouble. But it's not gambling. It's not a roulette thing either. And funding, I think people need to understand, is ultimately a game. Like everything else in life is a game. You have to negotiate. You don't have to accept everything the investor gives you. But the trick is negotiate from a position of strength. Make investors come to you. And investors will come to you if you're making money. The best way of getting money from someone is not to say, "Arey yaar, mujhe paisa do, main bhuka hu, mere bacche mar rahe hai, please give me some money." The best way to get money from someone is to say, "I'll double your money for you." You tell them that and they'll give you as much as you want. Some of the other things are valuation. Yes, important. Again, you need to read a lot about this stuff. There's no easy answer for any of these things. Control, this is the other thing. The last thing in the world I want to do as an investor is, in inverted commas, control your company. I've got enough problems of my own. I don't want to sit and micromanage you. And I'm very happy if you do your own, fix your own problems for yourself. And you can't fix your problems, please come to me. But I'm not going to come to you unless you ask. And again, I'm deliberately using some of these terms like CCPS. And if you don't know what it is, don't ask me. I'm not going to tell you. And if any of your questions are going to be questions which you can do a Google search for and find the answers, I'm not going to answer them. So for example, on LinkedIn, the first question everyone asks me is, doctor, send me your email. So I'm polite. I pretend to be polite. I send them the email, but I'm not going to waste my time with this guy. I mean, my email is available in 50 different places. And this guy can't even be bothered to find my email. He can't be bothered to find out anything about me. Why should I waste my time talking to him? The only valuable resource I have in life today is my time. I need to be picky and choosy about whom I share it with. Legally is all new stuff. I didn't understand any of it. And I'll tell you the truth, I still don't understand most of it. And it doesn't matter. 90% of it is, pardon my French, not very valuable anyway, but you need to learn about it. Again, focus on the areas of agreements. Lawyers love creating problems. This is wrong, that's wrong. But, the point is to move on with your business. There are lots of standard templates. And, for every 9 bad lawyers, promise you there is one good lawyer. And what do you care about the bad lawyers? You just need to find that one good lawyer. And the best way to find someone is a startup friendly lawyer. And trust me, not all of them are good. A lot of them don't understand, and they come up with all these standard templates which work well for large companies, don't work well for startups at all. Ask your friends, they'll tell you. So what are the red flags as far as I'm concerned when I invest? If someone comes to me with only an idea and hasn't done anything to implement it, sorry. I don't care how poor you are. It's always possible to show some proof that you've done it. And if you haven't, that means if you're not bothered, why should you expect me to bother? They come up with all these fancy projections. Give me a break. Anyone who says no competition just means one of two things. Usually it means you haven't done your homework, or it means that it's such a terrible idea that people have tried it and it hasn't worked and they've given up on it. No skin in the game, exactly. You want a salary, you want this, you want that, you want the money from the investor, and you're not willing to put anything except, in inverted commas, your time and effort, and you want to be paid for that. Not happening. And people love this. The buzzwords change. It used to be .com once upon a time, then it used to be chatbots, then it used to be blockchain. Now it's telemedicine and AI and ML and VR. And, I know more buzzwords than you guys, trust me. Whom do I fund? Yes, I mean, this might sound surprising. And you need to fall in love with it. You need to believe, hey, this guy can pull it off. Very irrational, trust me, but happens. And for me, the ROI is important. That's a return on investment. But it's honestly, for me, at least, it's the learning on investment. Have I become smarter about e-commerce or edutech or IoT or, anything as a result of this? 3 things which we think we bring to the table and we expect our entrepreneurs to bring to the table. Integrity. And, in fact, you get a smart guy who's a crook, you're in serious trouble. And there's no shortage of those. Curiosity, he wants to learn, and equally important, he's willing to tolerate my curiosity and answer my questions. And humility. You shouldn't pretend that he has all the answers. And paying customers. The moment you show me that you're generating revenue, I don't care whether you come from IIT or IIM or Timbuktu or, you can't write English, or who cares? You're making money, more than enough for me. Money talks, trust me, much more than any stupid certificate. Process, straightforward, all on our website. We back the entrepreneur. I actually have a soft corner for failed entrepreneurs. They've spent a lot of time and energy learning stuff at their expense. They'll repeat mistakes, but not the same ones. Women entrepreneurs, 100%. I mean, you have to be, I know from personal experience, my wife is twice as smart as I am and much more hardworking. And she runs the clinic and she brings up the kids and she feeds me and she allows me to do what I want. So you have to be in this Indian society. You have to be twice as good, really. And I have a soft corner for social impact. You know, money will come, money will go. But if you can make a difference to people's lives, you know, I mean, that's what money is for. And domain agnostic, absolutely. You know, I mean, I'm happy to learn. And in fact, I'm happy to learn new things all the time. Signing the check is the easy bit. I don't have to do the hard work. The analyst does the due diligence. I sign the check, but the hard work starts only after this. We want to be actively engaged. We want someone who understands that startups are fragile and investors add more value than just money. We want someone who will share monthly reports with us, who cares about the numbers. Numbers aren't boring, trust me. You know, if you don't know your numbers, you're never going to be able to run this company, or you'll run it to the ground. Governance, people don't understand things like culture and governance, but at some point you're going to need to raise the next round of money. And if you don't do a good job now, you're going to have a much bigger mess to take care of afterwards. We're happy to introduce you to other founders, other investors. We've made so many mistakes. Our entrepreneurs have made so many mistakes. We'll stop you from making this, but we don't micromanage. We help only when we're asked to. That's some of our investments. How do we support our startups? We do follow-up rounds with enough money. We're available, but we're careful. You know, I mean, if the guy is doing well and he treats us well, we'll fund him for the next round. But even if he's doing well and he doesn't treat us well, we're not going to participate in the next round because it's not just a question about the money. And we're happy to help. We're happy to tell them, hey, read this book or talk to this founder. He had a similar problem. This might help. And what are the principles? When I say portfolio approach, it means that it's impossible for anyone, whether you're Sequoia, whether you're Matrix, whether you've been doing this for 50 years as a full-time job. No one knows in advance which company is going to make it work because it's a complex adaptive system. And the power law applies that one company will succeed, but the one which succeeds will, you know, more than make up for all your losses. But again, not a get rich quick scheme. You know, that's the other problem with all these networks these days. Everyone says, "Arey yaar, paisa dalo, 2 saal mein double ho jayega." And investors need to read about angel investing. And as I said before, I honestly think being an angel investor keeps me young because I'm learning all the time. And I think if I stop learning, I might as well be dead. So as long as that's happening, I'm fine. I honestly think doctors make good angel investors. We're taught to be empathetic. And you know, I always tell people, I teach patients day in and day out. That's part of my job description. And that's why I think, you know, being an angel investor is so great that you teach angel, you teach your entrepreneurs, you teach other angel investors. You teach, there's so much to teach and to learn. Yes, I have domain expertise. I can be a brand ambassador. I understand what doctors want, don't want, what other techies have done wrong. And I'm an entrepreneur too, because, you know, I needed to start a practice too. And honestly, I think I learned from some of my entrepreneurs' mistakes, and hopefully that helps me improve my own medical practice. So, you know, I spend more time and energy on my website, for example, because I see what my entrepreneurs are doing. So I learn fancy things like social media optimization and Google Analytics and all kinds of stuff, which otherwise, you know, where would I bother about? That's what it's supposed to be, of course. And want to read more? Well, actually, much more than reading more, please contribute more. You can go to Startup Mentors, set up discussions, talk to other people, share your knowledge with others. And guess what? Done. Back to square one. Yes, guys? Happy to take questions. Where do I see the questions, Krishna? Okay, guys, go ahead. Huh.
Yeah. So what we have is, we have a certain set of FAQs. 3 questions are there, which are being very common. And after that,
And they're actually not answered on Startup Mentors. Krishna, that's part of your homework after this is over. Fair enough?
Yes,
you'll compile the questions and you'll put it on
Yes.
Startup Mentors and on Nice Labs. Because, you know, honestly, any question you ask, someone else wants the answer, but people are scared or they kind of think, oh, I'm stupid, or people will think I'm an idiot if I ask a question. I honestly believe the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. But there's also lazy questions. I will not answer lazy questions. Okay, but go ahead.
I'll read out the questions. There's few questions that have come to me on the chat box.
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So there's Pramod asking this question. What did you learn from your failures?
We only have 20 minutes. No, kidding apart. So everything I learned from my failures, I try to post online. Uh, so some of the mistakes is I think I was very arrogant. I assumed I was very smart. Most doctors make that mistake. अरे यार, first आया college में medical entrance हो गया. I know 50 different names of anything in the body. And I think your mistakes, if nothing else, they humble you and you realize how much more there is to learn. I'm perfectly okay with making mistakes as long as I don't make the same ones again. So you need to make affordable mistakes, but you learn about whom to hire, how to hire, whom to fire. Really, that would be a complete book.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the next question is, how have the unrealistic expectations set impacted you as an investor?
Great question. Initially, I would think, you would attend all these angel in network meetings, and there were all these very bright guys. And don't forget, whenever someone is pitching to you, they're selling to you. And by definition, entrepreneurs need to be good salesmen. If they weren't good salesmen, they wouldn't be able to sell anything. And just like the selling to customers, the selling to investors, very easy to get carried away. Oh, he's so bright. He's doing IoT and he's doing Falana and Dikana. And, I've realized all things take time. So I think my expectations are a little more realistic. But, if I didn't believe in these guys, I wouldn't sign checks. And I still continue making mistakes. So you could say you sign a check and you didn't get a return. That was unrealistic. But it's not. You're doing it with your eyes open. Calculated risk.
This next question from Avinash. How to implement EduTech to ensure real learning with experimenting, failing, retrying, innovating, so that the learner gets real knowledge which she can use to build something new out of the blue.
And perfect. That's really what learning is. I always tell people, you can't teach anyone anything. Don't fool yourself. You can only help people to learn how to learn for themselves. Someone wants to learn how to play the guitar, whatever it is. And the principles of learning are exactly the same. The trick is make it fun. If he enjoys it, he'll learn for himself. If he doesn't, you're making his life miserable. You're making your life miserable. And that's one of the reasons I have such high regards for Sandeep, who's the founder of Buybox Labs. And that's a real life example of someone who's come up with something. You can actually tinker, you can learn, you can make mistakes. And it's not an expensive kit. It's just $10,000. So I think there are lots of opportunities. I'm a big believer in the fact that there is nothing new under the sun. Someone somewhere in the world has solved that problem. Maybe it was 2 centuries ago and it was in different context. Maybe it was in some other country and so he did it in German and that's why you don't know about it. Or maybe it was in a different domain. Find out. And the best way to find out is to read a lot. And then think about how you can apply what he did to your particular domain.
So this is an interesting question. Is it necessary that the entrepreneur should be young only? What are the pros and cons of young versus old entrepreneurs?
Yeah, that's very ageist, isn't it? And I don't know the person who asked the question. If they were young, I said, yeah, you should be young. If they were old, I'll say, yeah, you should be old. Rubbish, what difference? Who cares about your chronological age? I don't care. I only care about your mental age. And, as long as you're smart and you're willing to learn, you learn at the age of 50. You don't learn at the age of 25. And, young entrepreneurs have some skill sets, but some of the problems is they think they know everything. But on the other hand, they don't have financial burden. So my limited point is there are pros and cons for everything. And it's a pointless question. If you're old, can you make yourself young? No, so why bother about it? And if you're young, it's going to take you another 10 years till you become old. So why worry about things you can't change? Just focus on what you can and think of it as a strength and convince whoever you're talking to that it is a strength. I think that's the trick. So never too old and never too young. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does because we have got a lot of similar questions.
So, I can't understand why people are looking for formulas. The whole thing is there is no formula. And this is why I hate things like Byju's and guidebooks. Where it's like, okay, 100 questions, 100 में से दूसरा तो कुछ आने नहीं वाला है. वो X का Y होएगा, Y का Z होएगा, जो भी कुछ है, तुम ये करो, plug करो, answer मिल जाएगा. Come on, life isn't like that. Anyway, go on.
Yeah. The next question is, post-COVID, there's a talk about healthcare and pharma revolution. What is your take on the education sector, as nowadays we see a lot of schools shut and and it's not in priorities of government to release guidelines for opening schools. What innovations do you foresee in this sector, and is it needed?
Are people going to continue having kids? Yes. Are these kids going to continue being educated? Yes. Don't worry about all this rubbish, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year. In the big picture, nothing's going to matter. Healthcare is recession proof. Education is recession proof. Agriculture is recession proof. What do you care? Stupid government does this, that, and the other. Why are you dependent on other people? Figure it out for yourself. So all these things are huge opportunities, actually. It's up to you to the way you look at it. I think it's great that, if you actually have a captive audience sitting at home, otherwise, बेचारे 10 घंटे क्लासरूम में जेल हो जाते हैं, उसके बाद 3 घंटे ट्यूशन क्लास में जेल हो जाते हैं, फिर घर में आके नेटफ्लिक्स देखते हैं. So there's no time to do anything else. Now, they have that spare time. It's an opportunity, honestly. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. The next question is, sir, can you suggest some books to us? This is by Priya.
I never do that. I've suggested lots of books. And how do I know? I read 100 books a year. So, those are the books I like. Those are books you may hate. Why do I admire Amazon and Goodreads? And people are much smarter people than me who've written the books, reviewed the books, talked about them. Download the first chapter, see if it makes sense to you. Please don't ask for spoon feeding. The best way to lose someone's respect is to do that. Okay, next question.
Yes, sir. So this is a question related to, it's coming from a medical student. So they're asking, after MD, gynecologist and obstetrician, we have an option to do a course of IVF. Is that the only option? Moreover, after how many years of MD we should do the IVF course?
Maybe I'll take this offline because I don't think it'd be relevant to lots of people. But anyway, so you're asking, I think this has become a big problem in medicine. Now, it's a struggle to get into MBBS, then it's a struggle to get into your postgraduate, there's a struggle to get into your super specialization. You're spending 15 of the best years of your life just competing with other guys to do what? Score some stupid mark in some stupid exam with some stupid examiner. I feel it's a shame. But, having said that, that's what it is. So I think don't do what everyone else is doing, because that's a formula for unhappiness. And again, there's just so many, because anytime there's demand for something, there'll be supply. And the reality is most of that supply will be done for all the wrong reasons, because someone wants to exploit your need to learn something, and not a very good way. So I don't have a very easy answer. And I can tell you what I did, but what I did was 30 years ago. How is that going to be relevant to you today? All I can say is you need to figure out your own solution for yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. There's another question from Nisar Sheikh. For lump sum invest, is it good time invest?
Sorry, I missed that.
Market or equity for a period of 2 years?
Okay. So I guess he's talking about public markets, right? Listed space. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
What markets is he talking about? So startup investing, you have a 10-year horizon. Listed market, 5-year horizon. If your horizon is less than that, you may get lucky. And I think the biggest problem is if you get lucky. Because if you get lucky, you think, I'm so smart, everyone else is an idiot, I'm the next Warren Buffett. And then that kind of gets to you, and you start all this day trading rubbish and you end up losing. You'll make some money some days, and there's cognitive dissonance, and you'll only remember your successes and you'll forget about your failures, and you'll just mess up. So I think you need to be patient if nothing else. And I think that's one thing old age teaches you.
Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, next question. Did I answer that?
Yeah, you answered the question. Then the next question is, if I have an idea and I come to you with it, what would make a good impression and what would keep me on your mind even after the interaction is over?
Show me your profit and loss statement. Show me you have paying customers. But don't come to me before you have paying customers. Let me explain why. There is a right time and place for everything in life. So, you need to learn calculus, but you don't want to necessarily learn calculus before you've done arithmetic, right? So there's a sequence. And don't come to me if you want $10 million. I'm not the right investor for you, but don't come to me if you don't reach my sweet spot. So find out what my sweet spot is and then pitch to me. And you may very well say, hey, you know what? I don't meet your sweet spot. I understand that, but this is what I've done. This is where I'm stuck. This is the help I want from you. Are you willing to give it? I think that's fine, because you're making it very clear that you don't want to check from me, because if you don't meet my requirements and then you want to check from me, that irritates me like hell. But if you're asking for information and you've proved to me that you've done your homework and your stuff, and that hopefully answering your question will make me a little bit smarter, so that, you come back to me after 6 months and then say, hey, look, you gave me great advice. You're such a smart guy. And I'm such a smart guy that I implemented your advice and I made so much money. I'm much more likely to give you the check. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Then the next question that we have is, what do you consider is the most important for an entrepreneur as a skill or a mindset? Would you prefer someone who has a high EQ, IQ, who has more flexibility to adapt throughout the learning process? Or would you prefer someone to be skilled and having experience?
Am I allowed to say all of the above? Because
Yeah, so he's like giving us the option.
The truth is, you need all these skills. And if you don't have all those skills, you need to work with someone else who has some of those. So you're right. There are lots of these people who are extremely bright, but, they're partly, it's because they're autistic. It's because they're autistic, they're very bright, but their people skills are terrible. And they end up putting people off. So they're not able to hire, and they're not able to keep, everyone else. They're not assholes. Sorry, pardon my French. But they just don't know any better. So again, like I keep on saying, do what works well for you and find someone else who'll do the rest of the stuff. Because these guys love, they'll happily sit 1 week in front of their computer, coming up with stuff which no one else can dream of. But you put them in front of an investor and they just freeze. So play to their strengths. But the reality is, I won't say one thing is more important or less important. Everything is important at its time in the course of your evolution. And it doesn't make any sense to prioritize things. It's like saying, is history more important or geography more important? You need to pass both those tests, I guess.
Okay. Then the next question that we have is, how many startups have you invested in, and how many have failed?
Bad question. That information's on the website.
Okay. Then the next
Hey,
question.
this is going to be quick. For most of these, and I can quickly run through these. Good.
The next question that we have is, I'm a medical student, but I have ideas and I struggle with communication skills. What do you think is important for me, and how should I learn to develop communication skills so that I can become an entrepreneur?
The answer is simple. You develop anything by doing more of it. So you practice communication. Communication is something which even babies do, right? They cry when they're hungry. I'm not telling you cry, but my limited point is, this is a generic problem. So read lots of books. How to Win Friends and Influence People is still a classic. Join public speaking classes like Toastmasters. Put yourself in positions of discomfort so you acquire some of these skills. Get a girlfriend. That helps a lot. She'll teach you quickly sorry, I'm not sexist at all, but just, I'm a guy, so I think about that. Boyfriends, usually boyfriends are, anyway. So again, there's lots of ways of being able to do it. This is something we do as human beings all the time. So it's not hard. So, and then watch a couple of courses on YouTube and Udemy. There's so much free stuff. And practice, mess up, make mistakes. And there are lots of good solutions to this, and there are actually these challenges. Go meet a stranger on a road and say, can you give me 10 rupees, please? See what happens. But get out of your comfort zone. So I think the fact that you're self-aware and you realize that that's a skill you need to learn, that's 80% of the task done. The really problematic guys are the ones who don't know that they need to learn that skill.
So, sir, we have this one compliment for you. The person is mentioning that we love your energy and how you are using sense of humor in every answer. So thank you for that.
Please tell my wife. I need all the brownie points I can score with her. No, but kidding apart, life's too short not to have fun. And I always tell people, if I stopped having fun, I would stop posting on LinkedIn and I would stop reading books. And I don't have to do anything in my life anymore which I don't enjoy. So to that extent, I'm fortunate, I'm blessed. So it's fun. You do more of it. It becomes even more fun. So it's honestly a positive virtuous cycle. The trick is to find things you've heard of Ikigai, right? And again, I'm not going to tell you what it is. Read the book. But, these are all common problems. We've had them for 2,000 years. People have found solutions. And I'm a big believer in reading a book which was written 20 years ago. Because a book which is written 20 years ago is anti-fragile. the fact that it's still around means that that message is timeless, or it wouldn't be around. And that's a great way to start. And then read more and more, and that becomes a positive virtuous cycle. So to come back to that question, which actually in a way I wasn't fair, I evaded it. If I ask you what is the most important skill you should have, is you should have the desire to learn. Because if you have the desire to learn, you learn EQ, you learn technical skills. Like I say, you don't have to do it all yourself. You'll find someone, or you'll hire someone whose IQ is better than yours.
Then the next question that we have is how to remove. So the question is how to remove the monotonicity of rote learning and its mere applications in the medical college so that we can boost our creativity.
Unfortunately, I don't think, there's still going to be exams. You're still going to have to pass those exams. But I'll tell you one trick. A lot of this stuff, 80% of the secret to passing an exam is knowing how to pass that exam. It's really not your domain knowledge. Because if you know whether it's SAT or JM, the trick is to then do lots of tests, the same tests, and you'll learn, okay, these are the common questions. And it's often the answer is embedded in the way that question is asked. So even if you gave me a test about which, let's say engineering, about which I knew nothing, all these are MCQs. And there are secrets to cracking MCQs, things like time management, answer the easy ones first, stuff like that. So, it's a game. Learn how to play the game. Does that make sense? But
yeah, it does.
But learn because you want to learn. Learn because no patient is going to come and say, doctor, I have fever. Is it malaria, dengue, TB? Pick one of the following. That's not the way life works.
Yeah. Then the next question that we have is, if a founder is involved in multiple companies, is it possible to invest in one of the companies? Would you trust the person?
No.
Right?
I love questions like that. Simple. No. What? If he doesn't have skin in the game? I mean, if I want a founder whose entire, whatever else it is invested only in making that company successful. That's all he thinks about, dreams about 24/7. Life is hard enough even if you're running just one startup. If you think you ought to be able to manage 2 or 3, forget it. You're kidding yourself. No, it's a simple answer. And too much scope for conflict of interest, and you're just begging for trouble. I wouldn't do it. Okay, guys, we're reaching the end of the hour. Last 2 questions.
I think we have a lot of questions. Just a second. Majority
and
of the healthcare startups.
Most of the questions are going to be repetitive. Just skip through those. And now kind of say, okay, so Disha, let me see how good a moderator you are. Fast forward through most of them. It's okay. And, we can, again, always remember, half of what I tell you, you're going to forget in any case, which is why we shared the presentation with you in advance. You can always review it afterwards. If there are questions, we'll answer it for you. This is not an opportunity which is going to go away. So honestly, don't worry. If there's enough demand, we'll do another webinar. So don't break your head about any of that stuff. But yeah, so 2 more, Disha, before people start. I think someone's drinking coffee. So he's definitely sleepy, poor guy. So we need to give guys a break.
Yeah.
Don't pooch le. You should never go on and on until people say, okay, when is this thing going to end? It should always be, I wish I had more time. Always leave them wanting more. Does that make sense? It works well for girlfriends and boyfriends as well. Sorry, go ahead.
The next question that we have is, majority of the healthcare startups are led by technology people. As a result, the core essence of patient care goes for a toss. What is your opinion on this?
Again, I keep on reminding myself, and it's not just true in healthcare, it's true in edutech. And you often find a solution, you fall in love with the solution, and then you say, okay, let me go look for problems I can solve. And do it. And it's better to do this when you're young, because then you learn that, hey, that was a stupid way of doing things. Because when you're young, you think you're smarter than everyone else in the world, and everyone else is an idiot. I know I did think so, but go ahead. Last question, Disha.
Yeah. So the last question that we have is, startups have exhausted their 3 months of expenses under the COVID-19, and some of them are facing the problem of survival. So do you have any suggestions for them, and how can they cope up with the losses, particularly in the areas which are recession-proof? They are not recession-proof.
So one thing I will tell you, startups will always face the problem of survival. If you're not facing the problem of survival, I don't think you should, well, that's my definition of a startup, honestly. It's life is full of constraints. There will always be constraints. And, people kind of think, once he's raised his Series C, and then, he's got $100 million, all his constraints are solved. Forget it. The poor guy now has to think about, what do I do in order to raise my Series D, or what do I need to do for my IPO? So problems never go away. And COVID-19 is just an excuse. If it wasn't COVID-19, it would have been something else. It would have been your startup got, your investor promised you a check and didn't give it, or your biggest customer decided to go to your competitor, or your competition came up with something which was far better. There'll always be problems in life. If any entrepreneur is looking for an investor for solutions, maybe he shouldn't be an entrepreneur in the first place. How do I know? How do I know enough about your problem to be able to intelligently answer? I don't. All I would say is experiment, try. You will always be running short of cash all the time. And I think that's where things like frugality, customer innovation, customer funding, guerrilla marketing, there are so many success stories. I think the problem is we get distracted by all the stupid success stories of valuation and so many billions of dollars. And if I were a journalist, I would ban those stories because they teach you all the wrong lessons. I would much rather talk about bootstrapped entrepreneurs. And so many of these guys have been successful in nothing. And so many of these guys have failed 3 times in the past and still recovered. So the good news is, and I always tell people, the 4 wisest words are, this too will pass. And it will. Which is to say some other crisis will come. Just going to have to learn to live with that. But the good thing about dealing with crisis is that it makes you more resilient for the next one. And at some point, after 5 years, guys who've lived through this will say, "Arey yaar, ye kya badi baat hai? I lived through the COVID-19 days." Yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Are there any other formalities, or should I just leave the meeting now?
Yeah, so we have a few announcements also to make, and we have to go with Krishna's. So first, sir, thank you so much, because on the entire 1 hour you have covered a lot of topics, and they were very straightforward also explanations, but good examples as well. So we have got a lot of clarity. Like, I'm pretty sure that even the Minds team got a lot of clarity. So thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
Then, Krishna sir, can you?
But always remember, and I keep on reminding you guys, this doesn't end when this webinar ends. It's actually the start. So now you need to videotape it, you need to edit it, you need to share it with the world. You need to think of additional questions which have come up. Each of those questions should be repackaged into a new video and a new post. And there's so much. Be generous, guys. Okay, sorry.
We have a lot of comments also if you want to check it.
I'll do that. Let's move on. Don't forget.
So thank you, sir, for your wonderful session and for a fully power-packed session with so much of information and lot of learning lessons for us. We also have learned the art of asking questions.
I've made lots of notes, guys. Thank you so much. So you know what some of my LinkedIn posts are going to be about. But for me, that's good too. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. And I think all of us have learned the ask of asking the right questions, because that's what makes us more intelligent and more resilient towards situations and this thing. Thank you so much, sir.
I'd request everyone to do 2 things at the end of this. One is make a 1-minute video on one thing, just one thing. It could be a TikTok video if you want. One thing you learned from this session, and a post. Again, it could just be 2 sentences or 4 sentences or whatever else, but these are my 2 requests. And if you do this, I promise you will do another webinar. If you don't, then I'm going to say, hey, what the hell, why am I giving all this gyan and so much hot air? So ball is back in your court, guys. Take care and thank you so much. Sunday morning, I'm actually impressed with you people. I'd much rather be snapping, but take care. Bye-bye.